Hey, what's up, guys? It is your girl, Coach Leanne, down here at AM Fitness in Plainville. Today, I am bringing you kind of some background information about our squat. We talk a lot about squat form. We talk a lot about hip mobility and ankle mobility and shoulder mobility and all this kind of thing. We're actually going to take a step back from that today, and I just want to explain to you the difference between some of our squats. Specifically, we're just going to talk about barbell front squats versus barbell back squats, and just how, depending on what kind of squat you do, how your form is actually going to change and how your body is going to be a little bit different based upon the placement of the weight on your body. So we're going to use one of our barbells, assuming that we're in large group. We have one of these bars that we weighted up for ourselves. We pick whatever the right weight is going to be for us. So as long as we understand our clean, we pop that bar up right in front of us. Now the first one we're going to talk about is our front squat. So when we are front squatting, I'm going to come a little bit closer to the camera here. We want that bar to just kind of sit in our fingertips. We don't want to try to grip it, because when we do this, we kind of, most of us, it limits our mobility. We don't have the mobility that it takes to get our elbows to come up. Really, the goal would be for the elbows to be in line with the shoulders. And if you feel like the bar is kind of choking you out a little bit, it's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. Expect that. Now the reason we want that is because we're not holding onto the bar. The arms have nothing to do with it. It's sitting on my shoulders. So with my elbows in line with my shoulders, I'm supporting this bar and I'm good to go. But the second my elbows start to come down, notice how the bar, I'm going to lose the bar. So super important that when I'm up here, it's just sitting in my fingertips and I've got my elbows up as high as I can get them. So now from here, when I go to squat, I'm going to take a step back here. If you notice, the bar should be about in line with the middle of my foot. And as I squat, it should stay pretty much in that straight line. Okay, so there's all types of other things about our squats that we should know. You know, we talk again about ankle and hip mobility and stuff like that. But lean forward of my chest should be very minimal because of the placement of the weight in front of me. So what it's doing is creating counterbalance. And what we should notice is that my shoulders stay a lot closer to on top of my hips in this particular stance. So that's my front squat. Now if I'm going to bring it into my back squat, now it's sitting on my spine and that's fine, but now you'll notice I still need the bar to be middle of my foot. So it's already changing my form a little bit. So now when I go to squat, I'm going to have more of a lean forward in order to keep the bar in that same position. Because again, the placement of the weight. So now instead of it being in front of me, now that it's behind me, as much as it hasn't changed a ton, there is going to be a little bit more lean forward of the chest, and that's not wrong. That's to be expected when you do a back squat versus a front squat. Okay, taking into account, you know, obviously different anatomical differences in our bodies and stuff like that. Level of forward lean, again, you know, ankle mobility and hip mobility, it's all going to change. But again, I didn't change my anatomy, I didn't change my mobility, but the way I squatted, back squat versus front squat, completely different. It also means my range of motion, I was allowed to get a little bit lower in my front squat because the counterbalance of the weight allowed me not to fall backwards. So I was able to stay up tall and get a little bit lower and go from there. So just something to think about when you're doing your squats, that it's okay that form is going to change, not form so much, that the way that you do the squat, it is going to change, and that's okay. So now the second piece that I want to talk about in terms of your squat, we talked about the bar staying in line with the middle of our foot. And so what we did was we talked about the difference between the front load and the back load, depending on our squat. But I also want to use that to emphasize going straight up and down in our squat. So we talk about leading with the chest, keeping the eyes up so the chest doesn't fall forward, and not doing what I like to call the stripper booty. So just to emphasize why, if we've got the bar in line with the middle of our foot, we sit straight down, we come straight back up, we're good. Middle of the foot, totally, all the way. But if I start to lean forward, now the bar is no longer middle of my foot. If I sit and I'm good and I'm in good form, but now I start to lift my butt first, notice how the bar came forward, and I'm going to kind of use this arcing pattern. So what I should do when I'm squatting, the bar should be going straight up and down. If at some point I have a straight line down or up or whatever, but I've got this kind of curve going on at some point, whether on the way down or the way up, then I've changed the way my squat is. So just another thing to keep in mind when we talk about having the bar midline of the foot, that's another reason that we want that to happen. So if you have any questions, we talked about a lot of stuff, feel free to ask. any one of your coaches, and we will help you guys out. And we'll see you at your next training session.